Ches. V'lo nicha Elokim derech eretz Plishtim chulu. And Hashem did not conduct the way of the land of the Plishtim. Hini amru razal berabos naso. Parsha Yudalad Daf Resh Nun Vav Gimel. Our sages said in Medrash Shab and Parshas Naso, B'Nasi Ashvi, concerning the seventh Nasi who brought gifts to the Mishkan, Shlosha Umus Asar HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'chesh Nichnasu La'aretz Li'aresh Esartzam. There were three nations that the Holy One, blessed be He, forbade when we went into the land to inherit their land. Shneimar, like it says, Al Tatzares Moav V'chein Edom, do not lay siege against Moab. And so to Edom, Eretz Plishtim Minayin, the land of the Plishtim. How do we know? Dichsiv Lo nicham Elokim derech Eretz Plishtim chulu. That from this pasuk, that Hashem did not conduct us the way of the land of the Plishtim. And the time to come, the Holy One, blessed be He, will permit all three of them to Israel. Shneim Marav Afu B'Kasef Plishtim, like it says, they will fly with the shoulders of Plishtim, Yama to the sea, Bishaya Simin Yudalaf Yud Gimel, Mitagaminan. And what does this mean? The Yonason translates, that we will attach as one shoulder our shoulders together, the Mimchi As Plishtai, to wipe out the Plishtim Diba Maravachulu that are on the west. Adam Moav Mishloach Yadam Chulu in the pasuk in Yeshaya says that Edom and Moab will send our hands to them, meaning we'll attack them as well. And look in Rabos Lech Lecha about Avram Avinu, that there are three nations were not given until the time to come. Kini Knizi Kadmoni. Those three nations, Rakshiva, almost Nitan Lo Achshav Chulu Yain Sham, only 7 nations were given now. The Ha'enyan, and the concept is Ki Plishtim Umalashon Mavoy Hamafulash, because Plishtim is from the language of an open alleyway. Kamush Amr Razal Pasuk B'Moshav Leitzim Lo Yashav Elu Plishtim. Like our sages said, that we did not sit in a dwelling place, a place where scoffers sit. Who are the scoffers? That's the Plishtim. B'Gemara Per Kamada Avodas Kochavim Uzol Staf Yud Tesamad Aleph in the Gemara of Avodah Zarah. The Ha'enyan, and the concept is, why are they called this open idea? Ki zeh lu'um hazeh ha'elokim. Hashem made two opposing concepts. Everything in holiness has its opposite. V'yesh bechinas Plishtim b'kedusha, and there's a concept of Plishtim in holiness. Bechinas Plishtim b'klippa, and also a concept of Plishtim in the klippa on the other side. Bechinas Plishtim b'kedusha, and bechinas iskalus hasimcha b'dvekos Hashem. The concept of Plishtim in holiness is the idea of revelation of happiness and cleaving to Hashem, b'filush b'giloy, in an open and revealed way, b'srachvus, and in a wide way, le'ein kates, with infinitely, bechinas u'b'chol me'odechanal, the concept of the love Hashem with all your might, v'o'im kein m'lashon hateda al mefalshe of, and it's the concept of flying on the breadth of the clouds. Miplos tamim deim, from the wonders of the perfect in idea, the concept of plos, of wonders also. B'yov simin lamazayin tezayin, the Pirush Rashi, mifalshi av gilui av. What does it mean, mifalshi av? The revelation from the cloud. That's how Rashi explains it. Mavoy mefulash, lashon mavoy mefulash, meaning to say the open way. Meaning to say the full length and width of the clouds. That's mefalshi av, the full length and width, meaning to say the spread out. That would be peles with on the left side. Aval pelish biyamin, who kamosh of hatifal shiba efer. But the word pelish with a shin on the right side instead of a sin would seem to imply to grovel or to cover yourself with ashes. B'Yirmiyah Siman Vav Kavav, the Pirush Rashi Lashon Gilgul Viskasus Be'efer, that Rashi explains means to roll around and cover yourself with ashes. Vu Ha'atzvus, and this is the idea of depression, which seems to be the opposite of this idea of spreading out and wild abandon. And so the truth is then that plishtim is also with a shin on the right side, not just the peles with the left side. So this seems to be the language of rolling around, and not the language of spreading out. Now this concept of spreading out in holiness, we can also first of all awaken the idea, as was mentioned before, the concept of how Yerushalayim will be spread out. So too, the idea of an open alleyway is that it goes from one end to the other and both ends are open. So, but the idea is that both sides of the alley are actually correspond to each other. Meaning to say that you have these gates then. And this corresponds with the idea of that the husband is known in the gates. That it goes directly one to the other, that they correspond to each other, that the level of understanding. The feminine aspect of intellect goes directly to the feminine aspect of the kingship, of the lowest level. It goes from Bina, that you have a revelation of in the lowest level of Malchus, just like you have in Bina. Biyom hahu yihya, in that day will be Yud-K, that you'll have the same concept of above as Yud-K, so too the Vav-K will be like Yud-K, that the below will be like above. Because now you can't have this revelation in the revealed world, as like it is in the hidden world in the Alma Diskasya, because the concept of Malchus is that her legs go downwards towards Mavis, towards death, meaning to say into the lower realms in order to elevate it. And you have to have this wall to surround, and you can't have this mavoy mafulish, you can't have this open alleyway, you have to have a protection, you can't just go straight and walk straight through. But in the time to come, I will take away the spirit of impurity, and then you will have the idea of that your teacher is not going to hide anymore. This is the voice of the Kala, Viyehi u'shneim marumim chulu, and they're both naked. U'plishtim shebeklippahim haletzim, and the plishtim in the klippa, in the other side of the idea of cliff. So that's plishtim of kedusha. You have also the plishtim of klippa of heim haletzim. These are the fools who are wild. Shu inyan hachavas piv kritzona, which is the people who speak whatever they want to. To speak what your heart desires. That is a joy that's not directed, it's a wild joy. That to say that our lips are with us, and there's nothing that can stop the wind from coming out. And that's why it's called a klippa, covering kikamosha klippa mechase umesteres halapri, that just like the klippa covers and hides the fruit, shenira kamoshi ikra pri, that if you look at it from the outside, the peel looks like the main thing. If you didn't know what was in it, kachasim chashel holos lulus mechase masjiral or Hashem, so too the wildness and the silliness covers over the light of Hashem. That this thing wants to come and be an existence for itself, just like the peel, the fruit shows itself as what as the main idea. It's very showy, which is the opposite of the other side of this idea of the spirituality that's and the godly life force that's inside of it. To rejoice in Hashem. And then this is the happiness of in a holy way is the opposite of the happiness in a crazy way, in a silly way, without purpose. That to be happy in Hashem is because you're nullified to the inexistence to him may be blessed. Shebichinas bina hanikra simcha, and that's the concept of bina, like we said, that bina is revealed in the same way as malchus, that when you have this joy in bina, which is that's the level of simcha, as is known as the idea of the aim. The mother of the children is joy, meaning to say that it's not just that in the simple meaning of the verse that the mother is happy, but rather that the level of the mother of bina is happiness. Yuval avi called tofes kinor, and that's the concept of a yuval is the father of all those that grab the kinor, that the concept of bechinas yovel, who bebina, the concept of yovel is bina, so the happiness of the music corresponds with bina, kinor, kav vav ner. And so what is kav vav ner? Vainu kav vav kaminyan shem havaya, that's the concept of Hashem's name, vu ner havaya nishmas adam, and that's the candle of Hashem. That what is the concept of the kinor, of the musical instrument, is the concept of the candle of Hashem. The soul of man is the musical instrument. And how is the soul of man a musical instrument to Hashem? Because it represents the concept of joy because of nullification to Hashem. Because bina is completely united with wisdom. Which is the idea of nullification. And the chachma and the bina are called the two friends. That's how bina has simcha, is because it's friends and is united with the idea of chachma, which is the concept of nullification. Like it says in the verse, that you will gather water with joy. So this joy in Hashem is because of a nullification in existence to the chachma. The bina is nullified to the chachma. And this is the concept of the holidays of to joy that are called holy. Pashas Korach daf kuf ein vav on Beis, and look in Zohar Korach binyan kriyei moed, the concept of those that are called to gather together, and the difference between that and moedim l'simcha chaser yudchulu, and that's missing a yud. V'hainu hasimcha bilti bitol. Why is it missing a yud? Because that it doesn't have nullification. A yud de chachma, the yud, which we said is chachma, which together with bina is happiness with bittul, with nullification and selflessness. And because of this, just happiness without nullification, meaning to say a selfish kind of yeshus kind of happiness. That's the concept of leitzanos. Like it says over there, that he did not sit amongst the scoffers. Lo yashav ze Korach. Who is it that did not sit? That's Korach. The Korach was the one who was scoffing. Shaya mitzlot, it's al Moshe v'Aaron chulo, that he scoffed on Moshe and Aaron. Hu v'biyalkud parshas Korach v'chein dimusham b'rabos is dasan v'aviram. So too dasan and aviram in Medrash Shabbos also over there compared Shiatzu nitzavim dugmas Goliath aplishti, that there compared to Goliath, who also stood out. That just like Goliath came out of the Marechas Plishtim, of the soldiers in the camp of the Plishtim, to stand and curse Hashem, so to Dasan Aviram, it says the same language by them, that they stood standing in order to make fun of Hashem. Vayin Bereshis Chachma Shara Kedusha Rish Pashir Beis Yarich Binyan Kas Leitzim Shepog Min Bos Aleph L'Shem Adnai, and look at Bereshis Chachma in the Shara Kedusha, that there it goes at length explaining the group of people that make fun, that blemishes the letter Aleph of Hashem's name of Adnai, Bos Yud Shem Vayehi, and also blemishes the first letter of Hashem's name Yud Ke Vav Ke Dahin Shabet Shoshom Yud Shem Vayehi. That, like we said, the concept of nullification is rooted in the letter Yud of Hashem's name. Mishnas Chasidim Mesechet Tshuva Perek Beis Kasav, and there it says Ki Aletz Gorem Shemistalik Shemistalik is Atzma Magbir Magbia Kufkaf Tzirufei Elokim, that there it says that he lifts himself up and lifts up the 120 combinations of the name of Elokim, which is the concept of judgment, and din Vainuki Arich Anpin Mukor Arachmim, because Arich Anpin is the source of mercy. V'yasiv al Kosayra Deshvivin, and sits on a throne of flaming fires. Shem Kuf Kaf Tzirufei Elokim, which are the 120 combinations of the name of Elokim, which corresponds with the concept of Hashem enthroned, so to speak, on Elokim. Havaya and Elokim is one. Shem Shoresh Adin and Lakaf Yulon Chulu. And the fact that Arich Anpin is sitting on such a throne, it's in order that the Hashem's mercies should bend and overtake these judgments. So bistalkus Arich Anpin, but when the Arich Anpin goes away, this divine mercy of the long countenance's idea, the judgments misgabrim adinim, they become strong. And from this comes the strong judgments, the strong strictnesses. Shem kuf kaf tzirufim the noga, which are the 120 combinations of the klippas noga, of the klippa that covers over, that the klippas noga can be elevated, but it's still which is the concept that if it says Hashem's name, but it's still an idea that covers over godliness. Hayom kimisof kuf kaf tzirufim the kedusha, that the concept of the klippas noga, that's where it gets the nurturance from the 120 combinations of the name of Hashem and holiness. And therefore, our sages said about scoffers and people who joke around like this, that the beginning, their beginning is travails and difficulties, and their end is destruction. Yerushalmi sof perek beis de brachos b'shas perek kamadav vorazar daf yud ches sof amud beis, both in Yerushalmi and Bavli. That is brought in Shara Kedusha and Reshis Chachma Tchilas Mitzad Kuf Kaf Tzirufim de Kedusha, that the beginning is coming from Kedusha, so it's 120 combinations, and therefore it's also Yisurim because it's coming from Elokim. Shadinim Kolim Tzas B'Chasadim, that it's the concept of Kedusha, so the judgments are also included in the kindnesses. Al Kain Mizeh Ba Yisurim, and that's why you have these difficulties, these pains. Achzir Lemutav, because it's coming from a holy place. Therefore, the difficulties are there to try and get him to return and do good. Vesofa, and in the end, when you have the 120 combinations of the Klippas Noga, Shem Kiminyan Lates, that's the number of lates of a scoffer, like a shadow that, so to speak, does not fear Hashem, does not fear Elokim, even though it comes from the name Elokim, meaning to say it still is not getting this nurturance. It's already removed from the level of Elokim, of the 120 combinations of Elokim, like it was in the beginning, as Kala v'nechratzachulu, then it's destroyed and gone. Masha leitz gorem sheistalkus arichan pinzeu alpi mashikasuv haran, and the concept that the scoffer causes the removal of the holiness. This can be explained like the Ran says, so that when you scoff and make fun like this is a concept of throwing off the yoke of heaven. And so this idea of the yoke of heaven is a concept of Kesser, is a concept of acceptance of the yoke. So the Arichanpin is this supernal will, beyond wisdom, and that's what comes through acceptance of the yoke of heaven, which is the idea of nullifying your will. That's why it says it's better to listen than to give a good sacrifice. Torah or Parshas Miketz b'dibur hamaskil kimcha mekorchem, like it says in Torah, or b'dibur hamaskil v'ata yigdal nakoch adnai v'alidei zeh mamshich alav b'chines soviv kol almina nikratzel, and through this a person is able to draw down upon themselves the encompassing light of Hashem beyond creation, which is called, so to speak, the shadow, through the concept of the acceptance of the yoke of heaven. This encompassing concept brings also down onto him the encompassing concept of godliness, compared to a shadow. Like it says, in the shadow of your wings we will take shelter. It says, and I've placed my words in your mouth, and I've covered you with the shadow of my hands. And this shadow covers over and protects and nullifies the judgments of these 120 combinations of the name Elokim Shemehem Nimshach Bechinas Tzel Mavis Chulu, that this, the opposing idea of the shadow, is the shadow of death, and here you have the shadow of Hashem's hand. The oppose that Chulu. And that's why it says in Shir HaShirim that I had pleasure and sat under Hashem's shadow, and therefore through the throwing off the yoke, with wildness and silliness, this causes to remove the light of Arichanpin, of Hashem's supernal mercies, and automatically then the judgments become stronger. Like it says in the Idra Rab of the Zohar HaKadosh, how the wicked are able to change the attribute of mercy to the attribute of judgment. And meaning who caused this judgment? That is the supernal, the desire of all desires, the highest level, like we said here, Varichanpin, not to be revealed over there, but it's the over there though, it's the idea of Raiv, Midas Arachim, Midas Adin, and that causes the changing of the attribute of mercy to the attribute of judgment. Al Derachman Garim Lahai Dina, who caused this? Ein Sham, look over there. Like it says in the Idra Rabbah about how Hashem brought down the rain on Sodom, that the rain on Sodom came from the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, from Hashem, the name of mercy, that changed the judgment. And according to this, we can explain what was mentioned before, that in the concept of Plishtim, there's two ideas. The first is the language of an open alleyway, which is an openness and a wildness. And the second is rolling around in the dirt, in the dust, in the ashes, which is the opposite of this. Like it says in Yirmiyah, that says you shepherds, you should Hililu and Zako, you should cry out and make a yalala, and you should roll around in the dirt, and so to speak. Which is the idea of rolling around in the dirt because of the great pain and bitterness. And at first these are two opposite ideas in the word of Peleshes. The truth is, we can say it's all one idea. Because it comes from because that our sages said that the scoffing is very difficult, is very bad. Like we brought, its beginning is travails and its end is destruction. So therefore, from the openness and the pilus, the spreading out in a wild way, that's the concept of the throwing off the yoke of heaven. This causes the light of Hashem's divine will to go away, and the judgments become strong. So this causes, because of that, because the judgments became strong because of the first explanation of the word, therefore you have the second meaning of the word, that you're going to cry out and roll in the dirt, God forbid. That's why our sages said it's forbidden to a person to fill their mouth with laughter in this world, because the concept of filling the laughter, which is not a happiness of a holiness, it's simply an idea of scoffing, throwing off the yoke of heaven, and this causes the removal of the light of Arichanpin, of the supernal mercies, Tana de Beliyahu Chilik Aleph Reish Perek Yud Gimel, like it says in Tana de Beliyahu, and the concept of schok is the concept of scoffing, V'zeu, perhaps in the idea of Vayakum Litzachek. V'zeu inyan shetzarach lios ke baraza besumka l'susya chivra. You have to be like a baraza sumka, like a red bridle to a white horse. Ki susya chivra zeu inyan mara levena, because the white horse, this is the idea of the white bile of happiness and frivolity, so to speak. That the truth is, you do have to have some of this happiness, that from the white bile can come also happiness, that you can rejoice in Hashem, but you have to have this red brittle. You have to have this opposing idea of the red bile, which is the idea of a person should always be angry. The Yetzer Tov should be angry at the Yetzer Hara, so that this happiness and joy doesn't come to just be wild and throwing off the yoke of heaven. Ketzer, in short, that the land of the Plishtim is one of the three lands that was not given to Israel when we left Mitzrayim until the time to come. Plishtim lashon mavoi mefulash, and the Plishtim is an idea of an open alleyway. Mefalse of Giloy, in the concept of Mefalse of the spreading out of the cloud is a concept of revelation and spreading out. Upekadush, hu iskalus hasimcha b'dveikus Hashem, and in the concept of in holiness, it's an idea of happiness in cleaving to Hashem. Ubeklipa b'chinas litzanos, and in Klippa it's an idea of scoffing, v'kamosh kasu b'perek lifnei dein yud aleph, like it says in Gemara and Avodah Zarah. Plishtim litzanim hayu. The Plishtim were scoffers, and this is to be a selfish happiness, the opposite of a godly happiness, which comes from nullification and selflessness. Yuval Avi called Tofis Kidur, and we said the concept of the Yuval, the happiness, this Bina is grabbing or taking up a musical instrument, the harp and so forth, Ner Havaya, which is made up of the Kav Vav and Ner, which is the candle of Hashem, the soul of a person, which is the happiness is like this musical instrument for Hashem. And in the level of Bina, and to gather water with joy, Moadim L'Simcha, which is the concept of Chachma and Bina together. And the Moadim are the idea of happiness, Mikrai Kodesh, and that call Kodesh, meaning to say they come from Kodesh, they are Bina, and happiness, which comes from Chachma. Ba'anshi Korach Nemar, Kriyei Mor, by Korach, the people of Korach, it says Kriyei Mor without a Yod, Chaser Yod, Shuhu Abitul, Nimshach Halitzanos, that they were called, that they're an opposing idea to the holidays of happiness that are called Mikrai Kodesh, because they're missing a Yod, that they don't have this nullification, therefore they're similar to the Plishtim. That that's the idea of Korach, that he made fun. Shabbos Leitzim Pogim, that in Reshis Chachma it says that the scoffers, they blemish the Aleph, the Adnai of the name Adnai, Nimshach the Yud the Shem Avaya, and the name and the Yud of the name of Avaya, like we said, which is the idea of Bittul, Mishnas Chasidim Shekorim Listalik or Arich Anpin, and in Mishnas Chasidim it says that it makes the light of Arich Anpin go up, and we explain what's this idea of the light of Arich Anpin going away. Vahinuki Halitzanus, because all Kamosh Kosovaran, that the concept of scoffing is the concept of throwing off the yoke of heaven. Arich Anpin Ratana Elyon in Derech Lamshichu Kimalide Kabbalah, so on the concept of the supernal will, that you accept upon yourself the yoke of heaven. That's the way. That's the way to bring it down, according to the Rabbeinu Nissim. That's the idea that they were tied to Israel 2 crowns. That one was corresponded with the nullification, the state of acceptance of the yoke of heaven, when they said I will do, and I will hear, and through the throwing off of the yoke of heaven, the crown of Arich Anpin goes away. And then you have the strengthening of the 120 combinations of the name of Elokim, just like a shadow doesn't fear, which is the opposite of the idea that I've covered you with the shadow of my hand. That's why Litzanim first has the idea of difficulties, and then it has destruction, and that corresponds with the two meanings, the two explanations of the word plishtim, which is the concept of not just the happiness which causes the in a crazy way of throwing off the yoke, which causes the stalkos of Arichampin, and Yisorim, Lashon Yispalshib Efer. You also have the concept of the rolling around in the dirt, which comes from at the end of that. Alkin also, and that's why our sages said it's forbidden to fill your mouth with happiness in the way of plishtim. Rather, you should be like a red bridle to a white horse.